Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. This is Tucker, also known as Hagrid, here with Because Bitcoin. Today, we're going to be just looking at majors, looking at price action across the board, trying to figure out where we are going next. I know my coworker Louis dropped a video yesterday. He thinks we're going higher. I tend to agree. Very tricky spot with Bitcoin and other majors. So I wanted to just go through what I'm looking at, how to trade some indicators, and then we'll check out the terminal, some heat maps, some of that stuff. Yeah, guys, hit the like, subscribe, of course. You can always look at a chart and find some support and resistance, right? Like that's not the hardest thing in the world, right? Like clearly we've got support here, we've got some diagonal resistance here. I'll just draw it out, but I think finding those areas with volume is actually a lot better, right? Because you can draw lines all day. They're pretty subjective, but to find a spot where it's based on actual buyers and sellers stepping in rather than somewhat arbitrary lines on a chart, I think is more ideal. So I am going to do this. This is what I like to do with the volume profiles. So let me do this. Let me make this green. Let me make this red. Okay. So how I like to draw these, I like to draw them on usually a higher time frame, 12 daily, something like that. But mostly from an impulsive move, right? Like this was a big impulsive move. Obviously, we had more volume here and here, but I want to take volume from this move. So I could even go back a candle. That might not have moved it, but this volume bar right here corresponding to this breakout candle is where I would pull that from. And then that gives me a little more refined area of support, right? So looking right about there, let me get rid of this midline. Okay. Right. So as we can see, we have pretty good support in here, a lot of structure, a lot of bounces out of here, some deviations, of course, but um, overall, pretty good support, right between 102 to 104K for Bitcoin. Get rid of all that. Okay. Now to the top side, right? Pretty clear to see. We had some deviations, but in general, value area high has smacked us back down a few times at this point. So here's what I would say with that, right? Like, well, let me back up. This area down here as support, when I look at a volume profile, I want to see the point of control, this red line. I want to see it low, right? Like I would not want to see a volume profile with the red bar, the point of control, like up here, right? That just tells me there's more supply than demand, at least in the range. So I would like, I like what we're seeing here, right? I like that the point of control is down here. But yeah, from here, all right, we know where our support is, we know where our resistance is. I would try to even refine where I think the supply is more so. Okay, so this was a thin move down. Okay, this was a pretty thin move down. We've got our value area high right here. There's definitely a lot of supply above 109, right? There's definitely a lot of supply above 109, but just to draw some more SR so we can kind of, and then we'll drop down to a lower time frame. I like this right here. Let me find a wick like that. Now let me zoom in a little bit, maybe a 7-hour. Make sure this is pulled all the way over. Okay. So as we can see, the last couple days, we've been trapped between this value area high and this horizontal SR. Now, this would be very important for me to see hold right here at 106.8, 106.5, really. I could even allow for that, right? 106.5, but I wouldn't want to see it slip too much further under there, right? Or you risk putting these guys underwater. You start slipping down here. These guys get scared. They get out. That's when you're coming back to retest demand for a 20th time. I mean, I don't even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, that's when you come back to retest demand for far too many times, right? Which we don't really want to see. So I would love to see this continue grind higher and hold this level. If you can keep sort of reaccumulating right here, that's really all we want to see out of Bitcoin. That's really all we want to see, because I don't know if you guys have been watching Market Check or in the Discord or not, but alts have not been buying this Bitcoin move, and I will elaborate on that with an ETH chart. So I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. Yeah, this is what we're talking about. So let me pull another volume profile. This is going to be mostly volume profile focused. I've found as I get deeper into this video that that I do want to focus more on these volume profiles, because they are important. They're very important. They're actual buying and selling, right? Versus, like I said, we could draw trend lines all day long, but you know, we want to see actually where the volume's happening. So if you remember, just back on Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin was, I would say, here in relation to its point of control and its value area low, right? It would be more like at 2,600, right, where ETH is. ETH is not. ETH is at 2,400, retesting value area low. Really would not want to see this rollover, obviously, right? I mean, I think we can all say that with some confidence. Really would not want to see this rollover, because if anything, this is actually a great spot for a hedge, actually. I mean, that actually is a pretty decent hedge, right? Stop above the high, above the point of control, target a full bar, right? That would be a decent little hedge play. Now, I have not hedged. I'm not opening up a short here, but there is definitely potential for a rollover, right? There's no way around it. What I would look for as a bull, which of course mid and high time frame I definitely am, is something like this. Okay, is something like coming back, filling the midpoint of this FEG right at 30 or 23.30, right? 23.20, somewhere in there. That would be a pretty nice spot to see filled, and then look for continuation higher. Now, if we got to take some things into consideration, so let me we got Coinbase over there. Let me show this real quick. Okay, if ETH were to come down into 23.20, right? Like I just said, that's where we would look for a bounce, right? That's where I would look for bulls to step in. But it depends on what Bitcoin is doing, obviously. It all depends on what Bitcoin's doing. Because like we were just looking at on the Bitcoin chart, we came into value area high. If we see Bitcoin start losing like 105, then we can target that 102 to 103 down here. I would not expect ETH to hold 23.20, right? So the kind of cross asset, analysis, right? Like I have to consider what Bitcoin's going to do. I cannot just look at the ETH chart. Bitcoin loses 105, ETH comes into 2,300. It's not an instant, blind faith bid. I think I would need to see some reclaims on Bitcoin first. But look, backing up as it stands right now, I think things look pretty good, right? I think things look pretty good, at least on Bitcoin. ETH has some work to do. Sol actually looks better than ETH. And I'll pull that up real quick. But yeah, just in relation to, actually, no, it doesn't. Why was I thinking that it did? Oh, it's this one. It's this one right here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is the same high, right? This high on ETH at 25.50 is the same high on Sol at 148, right? Sol is, let me do that the other way, actually. Sol is 3% off the high. ETH is 5%, so not a massive difference, but Sol has been somewhat stronger, at least very, very locally. Zooming out, of course, ETH has been stronger, right? This is the same low. 142 and 1,700 are the same low. and SOL just wicked 126. So you look at it on more than a 4-hour chart, ETH has been much stronger than SOL for the last 60 days. Anyways, I think that we've gone over ETH, we've gone over Bitcoin. For me, for SOL, I would love to see 135 to 125. Anywhere in this region, I think we have pretty good support. I would hate to see a lower high out of SOL, mostly because it corresponds very closely with Pepe, which we can go over here in a little bit as well. Yeah, we just don't want to see this downtrend continue. And I think it's slowing, right? Like, I'm sure Max, Tommy, Louis, I'm sure a bunch of guys on here have talked about, the bouncing ball, right? Running out of steam. And that's kind of how bottoms form. And that's kind of what we're seeing on SOL. SOL looks a lot more like that than ETH, right? ETH has just been in a range and we had a deviation and are trying to reclaim right now. But yeah, anyway, I would love to see SOL have some higher lows here. That's really what we need to see. And I can pull a volume profile. We can go over it a little bit. Let's see here. Actually, the colors are fine. It doesn't matter. Let's pull it from here. Find a big volume candle on a high or a low or an impulsive move. That's kind of how I like to pull the volume profiles. But okay, get rid of some of this. Okay. I like that. I do like that, where we're at on SOL. Get rid of that. That's a decent little point of control value area low. That's a decent little volume profile. We're just doing some live charting here. Like, none of these charts were prepared. We're just kind of, obviously I've been staring at these all morning, but none of these were prepared. We're just kind of doing this live. So let's see. It looks more like Bitcoin's volume profile than does Ethereum's, of course. Just looking at it. Staying above this point of control and getting above the origin of this move, which I'm sure you guys have heard Jackus say many times, right? The origin, right? As is holding this impulsive candle up, this FVG, like holding this whole area, like, okay, this needs to happen, right? And holding this, that's really all that matters on SOL. Like, I'll make it even a little bit more refined. Like holding this candle, right? Like, hold 140, flip 148. That's all that matters short term on SOL, in my opinion. That is all that matters. 140, 148. So yeah, those are my local levels for SOL. Let's do this. Let's go over to the terminal super quick. I'll share this tab. Okay, there we go. All right. Heat map, pretty basic. If you want to learn about what that is, we've got there's model 1 and model 2. We can look at both, but I just wanted to pull up Bitcoin on the 1 day 24-hour model 1. A lot at 106, a lot at 108. Okay. Gonna zoom out a little more. A lot at 103, not a lot higher. Okay. So what does this kind of tell me? Let's go back over here. Let's go back to Bitcoin. Because it is important to use more than just one technique, right? Like, I can just pull volume profiles on TradingView all day, but that doesn't tell me liquidation levels. It doesn't tell me a lot of things. So I like to use a few different tools. But what that tells me, right? What did we just say? We said 103. Let me get it exact. 103.9. Call it 104. Let's mark out 104. What do you know? 103.9, right at the point of control, right? Would not be shocked if we came and got that. Again, that would not be the most ideal, right? Like, I do not really need to see 104 to 102 tested for the 20th time. That would not be very good for support. Obviously, the more you bang on a door, everyone knows the saying. But yeah, I think very important for Bitcoin to hold this impulse candle and continue its grind sideways. Like this kind of sideways grind, and I'll put on these MA ribbons. Just this, right? This walk up. It needs to be like this. It needs to be like this, right? This walk up from 33 to 37, that is what this walk up needs to be, right? If it's not, you're going to see 101, 102, maybe headline driven. We haven't even gotten into any of the headline stuff, but yeah, that needs to, we're going to need that, some cooperation on that end. Because I can draw all the volume profiles and pull all the heat maps all day long, right? But something goes awry, thousands of miles away, and Bitcoin's going to do whatever it wants to. So important to stay on your toes here for sure. But those are the levels. Let me go back to the heat map and pull up a more macro heat map. That's what I'm talking about. 111. There's a whole lot at 111. There's little bits of liquidity, right? From like 103, like we said, to current price basically, but there is a lot at 111. I would like to see that taken. I'm going to zoom out even further. I'm guessing there's a lot below us. Ooh, there's a lot above too. All right, yeah, that 111 level. Obviously, you've got some at 92. That would be a disaster. That would be more so, and I'm going to switch back over here real quick. That would be more so this. If we were going to do this all summer and maybe into August, September, that is what it would look like, right? I mean, it is pretty much that to a T. Go back to Bitcoin here. Get rid of all the drawings. What are we on? Let's go daily. Boom, 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 boom. Right? Like that would not be good. That would not be good. It'd be okay, it would be annoying, and we've dealt with it before. We did it last year. It is what it is. But again, I would want to see this. Maybe we do need to do that. Maybe we do need to take liquidity at 103, come into that point of control, right? Take the liquidity at 103.9, set a higher low like we did back here, and then continue our rise. But as it stands right now, it doesn't seem all that necessary, right? I don't hate the grind up I'm seeing here on Bitcoin. So yeah, that's how I use volume profiles though. That's how I use volume profiles. Like I said, I want to see ETH and Sol play catch up here a little bit and actually buy what Bitcoin is selling. Because let me pull one more volume profile from here. Yeah, that's still, I like that. That's obviously a little more zoomed in than I could pull, but let me do this. Let me get this whole range. Don't hate that either. Obviously, the most volume's been done at 96K. But I don't hate this little falling wedge that we're putting in. So yeah, I am mid and high time frame bullish on Bitcoin. Short term, I don't really trade super short term time frames, but I don't think it looks bad here at 107.5, right? Like I said, you lose 105s, then it looks bad short term. As it stands right now, I think it's all right. So yeah, that is my video for today, Wednesday, June 25th. We just went over some majors, some volume profiles, some heat maps, and yeah, I think we're going higher. But anyway, that is it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. All right. See you guys.